Welcome to Schmidtless Live. I am so excited today. I've got my great friend Lynn Winter joining us. The show here today, as always, is meant to inspire and educate leaders in design and technology. So if you haven't subscribed already, you better do it because we've got a lot of amazing shows coming up. So today we're going to be talking about career transitioning. What does it mean? What should you be thinking about? Should you even do it? I mean, it's crazy out there, right? So why should we be doing that? Why should we be thinking about it? Well, Lynn's here to talk about a little bit about her experience and things that she's seen, so I'm excited to talk to her about it. But before we get started, I want to also mention that we are hiring, speaking of career transitions, at Foundry. So if you want to check out foundrymakes.com/careers, we're hiring over there, and we'd be happy to talk to you. So check it out. All right, I want to introduce my good friend Lynn. Lynn, how are you today?
Good. How are you?
Oh, living the dream.
Yeah, it's Wednesday, I think. So we're,
Yeah.
we're, we're doing great over here.
It is Wednesday. It is Wednesday. Okay, cool. Well, Lynn, you are kind of a Renaissance woman. You do so many different things. But what is it that you mainly focus on? Like besides obviously, you've been in project management, content strategy. You've done design. You've done it all. What are you doing these days?
Yeah, so now I am a freelance digital strategist, which is just kind of a silly name for that I do user experience, content strategy, information architecture. It kind of just depends what my clients need. So I work with different agencies, both in Minnesota and across the country, to kind of fill in where they have someone, or maybe they have a specific project where I can help with. Or I work directly with clients. So maybe they need some project management consulting, or they need some help guiding their kind of strategy team, the direction that they're going. So it just kind of just depends what people need. So it's kind of correct, which is fun.
Yeah, and you've got a lot of agency experience, so you know the whole gamut about how to fill in when it comes to managing the work, the content, the assets, all these different things when it comes to that, right?
Sure, and it helps to have that flexibility. So having that project management background really allows me to kind of keep organized. I make my own timelines. I've got an own plan. So it really helps, that team kind of know where I'm going to be at and what I'm doing. And the more I work with different agencies, I have to be more flexible. So I learn about lots of different ways people make processes and
Yep.
work with clients. And so I need to kind of embrace their values and kind of meld into that team as needed. So it's good practice on being flexible.
Yeah, well, I mean, each of these agencies are beautiful and unique snowflakes, are they not?
They are.
There's no standardization there.
No, there really isn't. But I like that. That's what gives me the opportunity to grow and change a lot. So.
Yeah, well, that's cool. So the work that you do, you like you mentioned, you started project management, and I've said this on the show before, but I've seen people who started project management who are great at, EQ, emotional intelligence, but they're also good at managing the work. They're good at managing the people. I see them transitioning into other careers as they grow in maturity in their. I see it happen a lot. I mean, I spoke about it a few episodes back where I've seen some of the best PMs I know now are like, COOs, and they moved into director positions and things like that. Do you also have you seen that yourself where maybe a project management career is a natural progression into some of these bigger roles or even different roles?
Sure. I think that's natural for any role, right? Where a designer wants to kind of move up. It's been a certain amount of years and they want to move into leadership. I think what's harder is for when people that are creating things, they have a harder time letting go of that creation, right? For project management, it's taking all the skills that you have and moving it to a higher level. So instead of thinking on project based, you're thinking about the more of the organization and solving those kind of problems. So I think it's very natural. I also think it's very hard to stay in the role of project management too long. It's not the kind of role where people give you a lot of accolades or high fives and thank yous.
Let's just call it what it is. It's a thankless position.
It really is. And so I was just reminded of that this week. And, it's fine most of the time, but then it starts to get a little hard. And I think anyone wants to change in some way, right? So whether that is considered an upper change or a sideways change, that just needs to happen over time.
Yeah. Well, and again, I mentioned this on yesterday's show where we talked about moving to, independent consultancy, where what that means to people. And one of the things that I brought up was, and I want to get your opinion on, is, as we get a little older, we our lives become a bit more constrained, and we've got kids, or we've got bills, or we've got houses and school and different things. And so having not only the time to consider these types of transitions, but just having the financial ability or these other things makes it very, very difficult. I mean, what did you experience as you kind of went through different transitions? Did you have to take in all of that stuff into account as well?
Absolutely. So for probably 15 years, I was always the person that had the insurance and all the safety nets of the normal world and my career. So it was something that I never felt like I could just jump ship. And not that my husband wasn't supportive, it was just in my blood not to feel that just jump and not know what's going to happen. Um, and then about 3 years back, I actually, the company was letting go of several people. I was one of
Mm.
them. So like I didn't take that brave step to jump out. But that was a time where finally, we could get insurance coverage through my husband. I had an opportunity and connections to try to do what I wanted to do and be more flexible. So we started with the plan that I would work like part-time. That lasted for 3 months. And then there I was working 40 hours. But
Sure.
but I had that support. And so I took the time, kind of for the first time in my career, to just say, what do I want? What makes me happy? What do I want to be doing? And so it is a scary thing. But if you are doing well in your career, you often get jobs, people look out to you, you've built connections, you have the opportunity to go. You will find work and do that. Even in a pandemic, I know so many agencies that are just hiring right now. Like people need good people. Work has not stopped for our industry.
No, and to your point, one of the things I brought up, was, the idea of being able to give yourself the permission to start to do this, right? And so I think that's something I see people struggle with, because just like yourself, you're like, well, this is kind of my role. This is what I've done for a while.
Mhm.
And you've kind of got to break through that barrier and say, like, no, it's okay for me to, even think about this. Where I think people stop themselves because they're like, well, if I think about it, that means I'm going to do it, or all the crazy things people tell themselves in their head, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And what I did, I immediately, when I was like, okay, I need to get a job, I need to start talking to people, and I started doing interviews, and it was really helpful because I was like, well, I don't want to do that job anymore. Like it was a lovely agency, several of them, and it didn't feel right. Something was bugging me, and so I had a hard time giving myself permission. So it was nice to have that support at home. But once I had that support, and I was like, yeah, I've been doing digital strategy for years now. Like I could make a career out of that. Let's
Yeah.
go forward. And I'm lucky because I have lots of different things I do, right? I even shoot sports, so I have income coming in from, well, I don't right now, but sports, I had income coming in from there, right? So I had all these like things kind of cooking and options there that I could explore it.
That's super cool. Yeah, like I said, Renaissance woman, that's you.
Or crazy person.
Yeah, I would say that. I mean, the back to the back to the point about like giving yourself permission. I think, like you said, it's really taking stock of all the things that you've built so far, the network, all those things, taking the time to look at that, to your point, and say, am I at that point where I'm kind of at that tipping point? Because the next point I want to bring up is there's never a good time to do this, right? You're never going to look at it and say, oh, perfect. All the writing is on the wall. It's time to make the transition, right?
And in my scenario, maybe I had the perfect time, right? Because I had a stop and I had a moment to pause and think about like, what do I value? Where do I want to be? So that was really helpful. But now might be a great time for people too. Like we've got kids at home that need, education and homeschooling, and there's all this kind of transition. So maybe now is a good time to kind of find that next right fit and explore. I mean, I also, while I've been doing like, digital strategy for 5 years before I was like, well, I'm not going to make a career out of this. I hadn't done it like at an agency in a full-time role. So I had a lot of
Right.
doubts of like, do I know what I'm talking about? Can
Sure.
I
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
this? Right. So I've taken on jobs even to like 3 months ago of like, can I do this job? Turns out I could, and I'm fine. But it was like, it's the stretching constantly of like, can I call myself this? Can I be these skills? Can I provide value to people? And it's actually the best way to grow. It's fantastic to like just put yourself out there and be a little scary about like what you're going to accomplish.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it's never going to feel 100% right. And that's and I would get into these kind of debates with former employees of mine at previous agencies, right, where they'd say like, I want a seat at the table. I want to help make decisions and all these different things. And I warned them, like, once you get a seat at the table, you're going to wish you never got that seat at the table.
Oh, yes.
But you can't, until somebody experiences, you can tell them till you're blue in the face. It doesn't matter. But it's the same with the idea of going out on your own, because, like you had mentioned, and we talked about in our episode yesterday, is, you kind of got to be comfortable with sales in a way, right?
Mm-hmm.
But sales is not what you think of, like when you think of like a car salesman or whatever, when it comes to this, right? I mean, how do you sell yourself, Lynn? Like what has worked for you? Is it mainly leveraging your network and your past experiences?
Yeah, I'm really blessed. I have a lot of people contacting me before I reach out to them. So I have done a low amount of sales work. I've spent years building that though. I have been speaking at events since 2012. So I have been speaking and selling my expertise and trying to share knowledge and networking in that way because I wanted to. Like I do that stuff because it helps me grow and I love meeting people.
Right.
And that's really what happened. And so I do have to remind myself, when I go to events, I'm there to like, tell people what I'm doing, share my experience. Like I have to do that, but I haven't had to do the like door knocking, like I'm out of work situation. So
The
I'm
cold emails.
blessed. Yeah, and I think that's a big difference, right? I'm not 20 anymore, right? Like I have a lot of experience under my belt. I've worked with some of these people. My most recent client, I worked with someone they worked with. So they saw all my work I did. So they contacted me that way. So things just kind of build up, that's how you sell, right? Everyone that gives you references, like you run a company, if you get a reference, that's the easiest way to sell yourself. The moment you have to fill out an RFP, that's when it gets hard. That's when you don't know if you're going to get the job, right?
No
But if you
RFPs.
get references, it kind of works out. And sometimes I talk to people and we decide we're not a good fit or they don't want to hire me, and it's okay.
Yep.
But I've been full, so I'm really blessed.
Yeah. Well, but again, it goes back to, what you had mentioned though, is like the other point I wanted to bring up was like, it's really never too late, right? Like, I mean, you obviously you can mentally stack all these things against yourself by saying, well, I can't, I'm the insurance provider, I'm the homeschooler, or I'm these different things. I can't make that leap. So you can talk yourself out of quite a bit, right? I mean, and I think what I've found in the past when I branched out on my own early on was, just really leveraging peers and colleagues, asking them like, what are some of my strengths? Do you feel like, what do you think I'm good at? Where do you see me? Like, not just sitting there in my own head, but leveraging my network. And like you mentioned, you're going out on speaking events and things, so you're probably getting real-time feedback from people on the value you're providing, right?
Sure. And that's also the value of being in a freelance position, because you get feedback with every single project. When you work within an agency or an in-house, you don't get that kind of feedback all the time. So setting up, there was a talk at the conference I ran last week that talked about ways to get active feedback to improve yourself from your coworkers. So that's great. I also think you have to let things your passion take you. So for years, maybe even recently, I just got comfortable with the fact that like the field of content strategy is huge. I don't do this, 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 and this. And instead of apologizing for it when I was selling myself, I realized it doesn't matter. Who can do all of those things? Like, when you build a house, you don't expect the plumber to also do the drywall, but those roles have been established since like the 1800s, right?
Yeah,
So like,
yeah,
you
right.
know, the internet is like a
They have licensing and stuff.
yes, but the internet's like a baby. So we all think like, why don't we know how to do all the things? And I've got to be able to do all that. But you don't have to be. You know, I'm not a technical PM. I've never been a technical PM. It doesn't matter. I just don't get that role. Like, so get comfortable with the things that you're not, and then get really good at the things you're passionate about. You know, read up on those, learn more about that, and that's your strength. And then someone's going to look for that. As long as you know how to market who you are or sell yourself in the job interview, you're good. So I think just getting comfortable with that is the first thing, and it's a thing that I think slowly have just figured out how to do because it's hard. You know, you turn the corner and you're like,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know what I'm talking about that over there. Well, but I know there's literally someone on staff that does that full time. Okay, yes.
Well, and you know, the advice I see from people all the time is niche, 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 right? Which is, you know, don't try to be all things to all people, because then you're not going to be as valuable. Because if you're the expert in this sort of narrow area, you're much more valuable. You can charge more. You can, you know, all those things, right?
I don't know. I mean, I don't think I follow that very well. Right? I have project management. I do user testing.
Sure.
I just built wireframes yesterday.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and then I'm consulting and over like I don't know. Like I think for me being a freelancer, it's been great that I'm diversified.
Yeah.
That's gotten
Yep.
me the ability to do that. A lot of PMs that I've talked to that went freelance, you know, they have to have one or two clients to keep all of their schedule full essentially. But my ability is like, I'm going to do this kind of project over here, that over there, that over there. I also think because I have the different backgrounds when I come to a job, I bring kind of a different perspective. So like I'm going to do lean content strategy because I've worked with nonprofits for a long time. I've been a project manager. So I'm not going to be like, oh yes, we need $10,000 to do that. No, like we can do something pretty powerful in like $2,000, you know? So I mean, I think it depends what your career path is and where you're working
Yep.
to decide, you know, niche or not. But I don't really follow that. But I've got an issue with that. I mean, it's not that I like have a like don't think that's a good idea. I just do things
No,
lots of.
no, it totally makes sense. So let's talk about that pricing stuff, because that's something else that hinders people is, how do I price myself, right? And how do I find out like what's okay to charge? You know, I see people underbidding themselves all the time. You know, I mean, what was that experience like for you? Did you know, because you had, you know, obviously you've been working in these agencies, you'd hired contractors, I'm sure you saw what the rates were and what the expectations were. You had that experience. Did you just kind of follow in that sort of footsteps, or you know, how was that transition for you?
Yeah, so I guessed a little bit. I'm still guessing a little bit.
Sure, sure.
It depends. You know, what role am I? Do you value a PM role versus a strategist? Are they in Minnesota? Or are they at a big enterprise agency working for big clients? And so my rate tends to vary. But I just started asking people that were in the same situation and then providing what I was doing back. So it's not like, oh, give me all your information, but like, let's dialogue. How do you set pricing? How do you determine that's the right price for you? And so I've made kind of an evolution on the price over the last couple of years. And it depends, you know, are you working for someone 20 hours a week? Are you working for someone, you know, 20 hours a month and then maybe not for 5 months? So it's kind of evolving, and it's evolving as I kind of determine worth. So I think the biggest thing is when people go out there, I think you don't see that you would sell yourself or you have the worth that you have, and then you start yourself too low.
Yeah.
And then if you continue to work with those clients, you're stuck at that rate. So, but also like it's not, I don't do it because I want to make a certain amount of
Sure,
money.
sure.
You know, that's not my motivation. So like what's comfortable and right to me, and making sure you know that you have to lop off all that taxes and all those other costs off the top of the stack. But
Yep. Well, that's where spreadsheets come in handy, right?
yes.
um, well, to your point, you know, I've talked to a lot of people that are working for themselves. They're independent consultants, or you know, independent or freelance, or what's the new term? Fractional. That's the new one.
Oh, is that a thing?
Yeah, that's a thing. Yep. Fractional. I'm a fractional project manager or something like. It's just more sexy, I guess, than freelance. I guess I don't
That
know.
sounds really negative. Like I'm in pieces, broken.
It's a thing. It's a thing. I don't make up.
Okay.
I don't make these things up. I'm not the guru here. The but what I when I've talked to these people, what I hear from them is that maybe they're not making as much money as they did in their full time work, and they're working more hours, but they're so much happier because they own their own kind of destiny. They're growing at a rate 10 times what they were before. Did you find yourself, not in a money situation, but in a similar situation where you were growing even faster than you were kind of working in those inside of those organizations?
Exponentially. It's not even a comparison. I actually worry when people kind of approach me about, full-time agency jobs. It's like, when will I be ready to go back to that? Because I don't know if I can let go of that. Like the growth is every single week. And I don't feel like I'm working way more hours. I'm probably working less than I was at an agency. I also came from a management position, so I was less of creating stuff and more with dealing with people challenges and successes and all the fun things that come with being a manager, which I'm sure we can
So
talk
many
about
fun
for a
things.
while there. But it's unbelievable, the growth. So I hope that when you work at a place, we can find a way to build that in a little more, because I feel it's missing. And I don't know if it's on the person, because you become stagnant and you're put into you get told the box and you put yourself in the box, or if it's
Yeah.
just the fact that, I mean, when I've got to work with lots of agencies that have different tools, that are doing different processes, that have different types of clients, like I got different things I got to do every single day. And so I'm stretching myself to try new things, and I get to, right? It's not a same formulaic process. It's like, well, this client needs this kind of thing. Oh, I haven't done that before. Let me look it up. Let me think about how I want to do this. New like template of how we talk about users and content. Like, it's great.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know if it's just because I've only been in it 3 years, and like I'll feel like 5 years, like, yep, my tank is full. I'm good.
It's time to coast.
Yeah, I mean, it just feels great. And it's not even like I'm sitting there like, well, I've now dedicated 10 hours a week to learning and I read books. No, I'm still not getting to the books I want to get to, you know?
Yeah. Right.
So
Yeah.
that
Right. Right.
needs to
Exactly.
be
Well,
here.
well, and the last thing I kind of want to talk about, Lynn, is that you also made the leap into putting on your own conference, which again, not only are you're doing all these different roles and you're successful at those things, you're managing a family, and then you thought, you know what, a good idea is I'm going to put on a conference. And I was lucky enough to come to one of your conferences, and it was just fantastic. It was so great. You put it together so well. So many amazing speakers, such a great schedule. I mean, the food was great too. Um, and,
That's the most
you know,
important thing,
what
let me
what
tell
was
you.
going on in your mind when you thought, okay, yeah, besides this, sort of running my own business sort of thing, a conference makes a lot of sense to add on to what I'm doing. I mean, what was kind of the thought process there? Was it just you saw that this need and you needed to fill it? What was going on?
Yeah, so the conference was last week, so I'm still having like post-traumatic stress from the event, especially because it was supposed to be in person in April and we had to move it to virtual, which we thought maybe by August we would see humans again. But I started it because I had been thinking about it for a long time. I went to the Bureau of Digital PM conference, the PM Summit, years and years back, where we met, I believe, and it was just a great experience. And that community needs so much. And since I've been, while project management is, more in the back end of what I do these days, or the background, I should say, there's just this great need for this community to grow and to be invested in. When people figure out what conferences you go to, the PMs are left in the dust at a lot of agencies. And so I wanted to create a conference that was local to Minnesota so that we could grow that network. People ask me all the time, like, I need some advice. I'm trying to grow my career, move to the next position, or we need to hire really good PMs. So people contact me about that stuff already. It's like, well, let's bring that together. Let's let people learn and let people network, and then make Minnesota kind of a hub really amazing digital PMs where they can get better. And so I basically said, when I had transitioned to going freelance, I had all this time, right? For like months. So it was this great idea initially. And I said to my husband, like, how much money can I lose of ours if nobody shows up?
Okay.
And so we decided $5,000 we could waste of our money.
That's fair.
And people showed up. I mean, we had like 130 people maybe the first year, 140.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
And it was amazing. And it was great because we all got together and we talked and people were connecting.
Yep.
And I absolutely love it. And it's a lot of energy to put into it, but I meant to do it not to make any money. And the conference is extremely affordable to this day. But it's just to make that community have a place and a home and where to grow. Because I just felt for so many years I didn't have that
Yep.
in my career. I was by myself, and I worked with lovely people, but the role was essentially not treated with a lot of respect and value.
No, and you're scattered to the wind, like you said, and you're so, because you have to concentrate so much on the projects that you have, you're so insular too, right? You're so focused on everything that's just happening right, at the hood of your car, not down the road, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's hard for PMs to take a break and just not like shut that email down for even a day and just remember like you've got to invest in yourself. Like I wish I could shake every PM and be like, listen, you can do this. You need to put yourself forward and your career first, and that will benefit where you're working and yourself. But you can't forget about yourself. Like 10 years is going to pass, and you're going to just be like, well, remember those projects I got done maybe on time, maybe on budget, and maybe not a lot of people yelling. Like,
Yeah.
figure out where you want to go, you know?
Yep. Well, to your point, the whole idea is, most people trip and fall into project management in this space anyways, right? It's not usually a really like I'm going to make that choice. I mean, I've definitely seen that happen, but it's pretty rare. And you yeah, and when you get into it, like you said, you touch so many different things. If you're not open to bringing that stuff in as you're learning along the way, you're kind of stunting your growth capabilities. So being accepting of all those other things around you. I see it happen not just in project management, but in developers and designers as well, is where they get exposed to these other different things in different parts of the digital side, and they're like, well, no, it's that's not for me, that's not part of my thing. When I see it as a real opportunity to grow and learn more about holistically the industry you're in, the work that you're doing, the value you're providing, right?
I hired PMs for years, and the thing I always wanted to find is like, what other thing do you do? Like, I want you to care about project management and love that, but like, what's your like special sauce outside of that? Like, what are you interested and passionate about that we can tap into? Because then that takes you into a seat of authority more at the table versus people just treating you in a pencil pushing, scheduling kind of situation. Now, some agencies treat the role very positively in a different light, and so that's not the case. But when you're in a spot where you're a super defined role and you're only supposed to do this, you've got to find a way to kind of push past that and find the value. But
Yep.
I also think the accidental PM thing drives me bonkers.
I know. I know it does. That's why I had to bring it up.
Did you?
I saw the little fire going out in your eyes there.
It was the start of my talk last year, and it just bothers me because if you actually Google it, like there's so many PM books and blog posts about being an accident and
Yep.
it's for dummies and this and that, and it's like, why can't we just want to be a PM? Why can't we want to stay a PM? Like it's a really, really important role, and we find the places that value it, they get it, and it's awesome. But like it's okay to want to do this. It's okay to say that. We don't have to like put something in front of it in case someone's like, well, wait, you wanted to be a PM? Like, why would you do that? It's okay. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Like stuff wouldn't get done without us, people. Like it's important.
Oh, I know. It's important. It keeps, the everything on the rails. It's an important position. The last thing I kind of wanted to talk to you about, Lynn, was the idea of the conference, right? So, obviously, putting on the conference and everything, like you said, the opportunity that you saw but maybe I'm listening to this and I'm like, well, I don't know if I could put on a conference or things like that. But you do want to give some advice maybe to somebody who does want to build a community around the things that they're in. What are other ways they could do it? Is it meetup groups, other things? I mean, what would your suggestion be besides, going all the way to some, conference at the, Swedish Institute, right?
Yeah, yeah. I think it depends like what you like to do. Like if
Mm-hmm.
you're introvert, extrovert, if you like to speak or not speak, or if you're a writer.
Okay.
Um,
Yep.
so I think those are ways to start connecting with people that like to do similar things of connections. But the first thing is to think about like what is your thought leadership? Like what do you have to share? And then I meet with people all the time for, it's so easy virtually now. Like I loved meeting with people in person, but it was harder because it's like a commitment to drive and get there. But now you can just schedule a 30-minute meeting with people. And if you have a really good purpose for your meeting, like here's why I'm reaching out, here's what I'm trying to accomplish or where I'm getting, would you have time for advice for this? And just start talking to people. I mean, I think that's how you kind of figure out where you want to go anywhere. Like I tell people all the time, when you're super cranky, go do job interviews. You don't need to leave your job.
Yeah.
Just go talk to people and realize that the grass is just grass.
Yep.
And that you need to figure out like, is it an attitude adjustment? Is it like, no, I actually want to try something different,
Yeah.
or I'm growing, or what's the real problem? And so it always helps to have that kind of relationship. I also meet with someone once a month and like as we set it up like in the theory of mentor mentee, but like we're both like equals and we just talk about like what we're doing. And it's just
Right.
nice to be like, here's what I'm trying to do over here. I'm going to start this workshop series. Like, how would you do it? Like, how do we know,
Yep.
like, people pay for what the topic should be and things like that. And so find like people that you can be honest friends with and connect with them. And then just find people that like can help you figure out what your next step is. So like maybe you just want to jump a job and like you need to do job interviews
Yeah.
and like, you haven't done that in a while. Maybe you want to set up a faux job interview for 30 minutes with one or two people in the industry that could help you. People are pretty positive and willing to help as long as you're not just randomly grasping at random people like you have no connection to, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
so if
well, that's when you get those messages like, I want to pick your brain. It's like, no, just tell me exactly what you want. It's like,
yeah,
right? I've said it before a million times, you get 100% of what you don't ask for. So, be very clear. And I've had the same thing, right? I put myself out there. I do the podcast, I do the YouTube show, and, and people always, message in LinkedIn and they're like, hey, I just want to pick your brain, or, hey, I want to ask you a couple of questions. It's like, no, tell me exactly what you're looking for and what hopefully your outcome is. And that saves me so much headspace and time, right?
sure.
And
As well as like maybe you're not the right person. Like
right,
if they want to
exactly.
talk
Maybe I could
about
introduce you to the right person now that I got a better idea, which
yeah.
happens a good amount of the time when I do have those one-on-ones with folks. So yeah, that's a really great point, Lynn.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in a process right now helping a company hire for a project manager, and I can't tell you the different leveling of efforts, like anywhere from writing a cover letter to sending a follow-up thank you email, and then things that aren't happening, right? And so, like, if you put out energy and effort into this industry, people are pretty positive. And sure, some people are too busy. COVID's going on right now, and so we've got to be mindful of what people can extend energy to. I just tend, when I'm really busy, I say, okay, well, I'm sorry, but I can meet with you in 3 weeks. If that's too late for where you need to go, then I can't do it. But if you can wait, then let's do it then, and then we'll have that conversation. But I feel like people have been pretty positive as long as you're not just trying to pull and take and you're willing to give back into the community as well.
Yep, yep. No, I think that's super positive. All right, Lynn. Well, you're busy. Obviously, you've got lots of plates spinning, so I don't want to take up a lot of your time.
Right. My children are locked in the dungeon downstairs. I shoved my husband outside on the patio. Like, I'm good. We could do this for hours. Let's just see what happens.
We could just keep going all day. I could talk to you all day, Lynn, because you're fantastic. The amount of stuff that you've done, not only just personally, but the value you've given to the community and the things that you've taken on that maybe later you were like, maybe I shouldn't have, but um, it's amazing. I'm super proud of you and the work that you're doing. And the amount of impact you've had has just been huge, especially in the Twin Cities area. And I know that you're gonna take it worldwide one of these days. I'm sure, right?
Well, technically, we're jumping in an RV and seeing if we can do remote learning and work on the road.
That's awesome.
So maybe not worldwide, but nationwide at an RPG park near you soon.
And that's what I love about you,
Why
Lynn. You love to
not?
constantly challenge yourself. you, you are not going to sit still.
Crazy. The side of possible reality.
The yeah, what do they call it? The pausing disbelief or something, right? Like
Ooh, a suspension of belief. Yeah.
suspension. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, like, no, it's going to be fine. It's going to be great. I think, but again, I mean, that's probably one reason why you were a great PM. You're like, yeah, no, we can make this work. And then later there's tears and
So,
yeah.
well, thanks for having me. I mean, I always love talking to you. I don't appreciate that your camera's amazing and you look about 100 times better than me, but I'll
No,
step
no,
up
no,
my
no.
game next time.
Well, yeah, next time for sure. Well, and you got to come on the show again because, uh, again, like with the amount of experience you've had and the amount of things that you're doing, like I said, you're such a treasure to our local industry and community, and I really appreciate all the work you're doing. Truly,
Oh, well, thank you. Now I'm going to feel good all week.
as you should, as you should. I want you walking 2 inches off the ground everywhere you go.
Okay. I'm on it.
All right, cool. Well, Lynn, thanks again. We'll talk again soon.
All right. Thanks,
Okay, I'm
Kurt.
going to close out the show here with Foundry Makes. We're hiring. Yay. Yeah, come and join the team. It's great. Again, if you like the show, my name's Kurt. I'm the president at Foundry. The show here today is meant to educate and inspire leaders in design and technology. If you've got comments or questions, make sure you put them in the comments. We'll answer them. We'll talk about them. We got a lot of great shows coming up. Next week, we're going to be talking a lot about design. We're going to be talking about a lot of development. We're also going to be continuing our career series like we did today with Lynn and yesterday with Brendan about how to kind of grow in your career or make that jump to independent consulting. Who knows, right? Who knows? Maybe it's for you. Maybe it's not. It probably is. Okay, so if you like the show, hit the subscribe button, and I will see you again soon.